Hey, welcome back to another Jet Up Johnny video. Today we're going to be looking at what I hope is 15-second or less takeaways or analysis of every single team in the NFL so far through 3 weeks plus the Thursday night game between the Dolphins and Bengals. So I'm going to try to keep it at 15 seconds or less. I don't know how that's going to work out, but let's just get right into them. I'm going to go division by division. There's no really particular order that these teams are in, just kind of as I wrote them down as I prepared to do this. So Buffalo Bills, I think they're still the Super Bowl favorite. I think that they're basically dominant in every single area of their roster when they're fully healthy. They had some major secondary issues in the last week against the Dolphins and ended up not pulling out the win. But I think that they are just probably an unstoppable force heading into the playoffs come December and January. The Miami Dolphins, I've been surprised with how fast they've clicked. I think that their coaching is great. I think that they obviously have a bunch of explosive offensive, power. Protect your players. It was a really bad moment for the NFL on Thursday. A scary moment. Protect your players. New York Jets. So Flacco, the offense is not built for Flacco. There's a lot more talent on this roster than there has been in recent years, and it's very obvious. A lot of young guys that are showing legitimate, undeniable talent. And I'm curious to see what Zach Wilson will offer for this offense and whether it'll take it another step forward from where they are right now. And I hope it should. New England Patriots. So my takeaway for them, Mac is not Tom Brady. And that's not his fault. And it should never have been on him to be Tom Brady. But the way that they constructed their offense and their roster acted as if he was Tom Brady and that Bill Belichick was indestructible because he's the best coach or whatever. It's not working. The offensive game plan is bad. Mac just got hurt. It's kind of a mess so far. Baltimore Ravens. So Lamar is a true MVP candidate, probably as good of a candidate as there is right now. I think their defense has way too much potential to be playing how it is right now. I know they had a decent week against the Jets in week one, only allowed 9 points, but it was the Jets with Joe Flacco at quarterback. And I don't think that it was as great as the number 9 makes it seem. The last 2 weeks have not been up to the par of what I think their defense is capable of. Bengals. So I think the Bengals expectations were set too high because they made it to the Super Bowl last year. I think they were ahead of schedule, and I think it was great last year, but I think it kind of set the stage for them to disappoint a little bit this year. And it's great that they just pulled out that win on Thursday Night Football, puts them in a good spot, 2-2. They're gonna compete for the playoffs. And I think that, they've got a good chance. Cleveland Browns, I guess my takeaway for them is I think they're going to win more games than I thought they would in the first 11. Brissett is playing better than I thought he would. And I don't think that their schedule is super daunting in these first 11 games. I think they're probably going to put themselves in a decent position to compete for the playoffs. Pittsburgh Steelers, losing TJ Watt, huge blow to the defense. I think that obviously a well-coached team. Mike Tomlin's one of the best coaches in the NFL, hands down. But I'm kind of wondering, are we just waiting for Pickett at this point? And I know they're probably going to hold him out. They've got tough opponents coming up. But do we feel like we're kind of in a middle ground just waiting for Pickett? That's how I feel. Jacksonville Jaguars, very pleasantly surprised with how quickly that they've, turned it around this year. I think they have a real shot at taking that division. And Lawrence is showing why he was the number 1 overall pick last year, why he was a generational talent. There's exciting things going on in Jacksonville. Indianapolis Colts, very disappointing start to this season compared to where I thought they would be. I thought they were a true contender, and they've survived. I feel like they've played worse than what the record shows, and that's great for their prospects for the rest of the season, because getting that Chiefs win is huge, but they have to. There's no excuse to have Taylor only have 9 carries in that Jacksonville loss. That can never happen again this season if they want to have success. Tennessee Titans. So this is the regression that I kind of expected. I know maybe it's a little shocking to some people because they were the 1 seed in the AFC last year. I felt this coming to a certain extent, and I'm kind of just wondering if down the stretch we might see a little bit of Malik Willis, and I think maybe that would be for the better if we got a little test run of Malik Willis. I'd be excited to see that. Houston Texans. So this team, they're just not ready yet. I think that they might be getting their answer in terms of quarterback because I think coming into this year, they were kind of like, well, Mills played well at the end of last year, and we want to see if this is what the guy that we want. So far, it seems like maybe not, and it seems like they'll probably have a high pick and be looking to take their quarterback at the start of next year's draft. Kansas City Chiefs. I think it's clear that they do miss Tyreek Hill, but at the same time, I think people wrote them off way too soon, and I think that as long as Mahomes is under center for this team, they are a consistent Super Bowl contender every season. Los Angeles Chargers have hit some brutal injury luck. Allen's missed a few games. They lost Slater for the season. J.C. Jackson's missed some time. They have so many good players, and they're just kind of losing them. Joey Bosa's going to miss some time. But I do think that they have enough talent to make a run for the playoffs in the AFC. Denver Broncos, for me, a stunningly incompetent offense so far, but I do have faith that Russell Wilson will turn around. I think he's too good of a quarterback to have these struggles that who know I don't know who's to blame. He's partially to blame for sure, but I think they'll turn it around to a certain extent. We'll have to see whether they've done too much damage early on or not, but I think we'll see a better offensive product going forward. Las Vegas Raiders. So it's going to be a tough road for the Raiders. I think that's my takeaway. I think it's going to be a tough road for them as a team that's not as bad as their record looks, and probably not as bad as their record will look at the end of the year. Obviously, they have themselves to blame in some respects for why they're 0-3, and I don't know. I think that they have a lot of the pieces there, and for whatever reason, I don't think it's going to work this year, but that doesn't mean that it can't work down the road. Philadelphia Eagles, another team that is way ahead of where I thought they would be. Jalen Hurts is proving me wrong. I had some serious doubts about where they could go this season because I didn't believe that he was the answer at quarterback. So far, he looks great. We'll see how it finishes out this season, but so far he looks great. He's another MVP candidate, and I think their future is very bright. They've got 2 first-round picks coming up in the following draft, and this is with them having such a hot start to this season. So Dallas Cowboys, my biggest question for them is, can they survive Dak's injury? And so far so good. I mean, they got 2 wins with Cooper Rush at quarterback, having more success than I thought they would have without Dak. And it seems like maybe he'll be back sooner than the initial timeline seemed like it would be. They got a real chance. They got a real chance to take a playoff spot or the division in the NFC. New York Giants, the 2-0 start kind of felt like a mirage, and they did lose to the Cowboys last week. I think that Daniel Jones is probably not the answer, but at the same time, it hasn't been fair to him at all. The offensive line has just left him out to dry. He's got basically no receivers to throw to because everybody's getting hurt or is hurt already, and the whole Galladay situation. It's unfair to Daniel Jones, but I think they'll probably be moving on at the end of the season. Washington Commanders. So far it's been the Carson Wentz roller coaster. He started off super hot. His first 2 weeks really were good weeks, at least statistically. This past week, not a great showing, and the team suffered for it. They're 1-2 right now. I think they're a team that probably gets up to 7 or 8 wins, and it's going to depend on where Wentz can take them to a certain extent. But that loss to the Lions feels like a big one in terms of maybe their ability to try to sneak into the playoffs. Green Bay Packers, so my takeaway for them, get Aaron Rodgers some receivers or else. You're going to really regret it if you don't, because this team is not going to win anything of significance without getting him somebody to throw to. And maybe Romeo Doubs is turning into that guy. Maybe he will turn into that guy. I think that it's crazy to rely on that. I think they'll probably still make the playoffs regardless, but there's no way they're winning the Super Bowl as currently constructed. Minnesota Vikings, so a little bit bumpy so far. I think the division win against the Packers is huge. Do they need another weapon alongside Jefferson and Thielen? Thielen's had a little bit slower of a start than I expected. Do they need another guy since they don't have a tight end that really sticks out, and they don't have a third receiver that really sticks out? And Jefferson's kind of been bottled up the last 2 games. Maybe they need another guy. Detroit Lions, this is a team that's going to fight hard in every game. I know everybody says basically the same thing. Their offense has been surprisingly potent to me, and maybe could even get better with Jameson Williams if he comes back this year or when he comes back. I think they've got some real weapons on the offensive side of the ball. And Goff has done enough to get them the ball to make them to show off their talents. And they're a fun team to watch. Chicago Bears, I think they're a team where their winning record is a definite mirage unless they unleash Justin Fields successfully going forward, because they can't keep having him throw 10 to 15 passes a game. I'm not the biggest Justin Fields fan, but I feel like he needs a bigger opportunity to show what he can do throwing the football. It's just, this isn't a sustainable game plan. I know he doesn't have many people to throw to in general, but I don't know. You got to change up your game plan a little bit and mix up some throwing, or else people are going to catch on and sell out to defending the run. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, my question is, when are we going to get to see them at full strength? Because it seems like so many people are injured, so many big names are injured every single week. Brady's been throwing to, half of the weapons that he's expected to be throwing to. But the thing about them is that they're going to run away with the division. The division's a bad division, and they're still going to be a Super Bowl contender as long as Brady's still playing. New Orleans Saints, very disappointing start for them. I think that it's imperative that they utilize Alvin Kamara more. And I think that I'm a little skeptical now of whether Jameis is enough for them to compete for a playoff spot. I thought with his start last year before he got hurt, I thought that it was enough bringing him back. I thought they were going to compete for a playoff spot. Hasn't looked great so far, but it's early. Carolina Panthers. I didn't have a ton of faith in Baker going in, but Darnold looked better last year than what he's doing this year. What Baker's doing this year. It seems like the locker room is a mess right now. I think Matt Rule is the most likely coach to get fired midseason, and they need to utilize Christian McCaffrey more so than they did. They've done a better job the last couple weeks. The first week was embarrassingly low utilization of one of the best running backs in the NFL. Atlanta Falcons, my takeaway for them, Drake London and Kyle Pitts is a dangerous combo for whoever is their quarterback the next coming years. I don't think it'll be Mariota after this year. Maybe it'll be Ritter. Maybe it'll be a new guy next year. Cordero Patterson's an awesome story. It's super exciting to see him just like having so much success at running back. But this is a team that will ultimately probably be picking top 5. Los Angeles Rams. My question for them, can they unlock Allen Robinson? Or do they need to find another person to throw to besides Kupp? Because I think that's something that could really become a problem down the stretch. I know Kupp sometimes it seems unguardable, but there comes a point where everybody is guardable if there's nobody else that you're utilizing on the offense. And I do think that Allen Robinson has the talent. I've been surprised with how little he's done, and I'm hoping that they get him involved more. San Francisco 49ers, really tough to lose a season of Lance, especially after he sat all of last year. He hasn't played football in a long time, like meaningful, like a big chunk of football. And it's just really hard to make your plan for the next season, not knowing what you have in this guy. I still think the roster is good enough and the coaching is good enough that they can compete for a playoff spot, though. Arizona Cardinals, I think they might be headed for a big change in the offseason, unless DeAndre Hopkins can save them after his 6-week suspension. It seems like head coach, maybe, I don't know, it seems like they'll probably have some overturn in the coaching staff and front office. They're not going to move on from Kyler, obviously, big contract, and they shouldn't. But something needs to change. I don't think this team's going to compete this year. Seattle Seahawks, my question for them, is this Pete Carroll's last year? Is this his send-off? It feels like it might be. It feels like this team's kind of turning over a new leaf and starting over, and I don't think that he at his age is going to want to stick around for that. I would love to see more Kenneth Walker down the stretch as it becomes more and more clear that the Seahawks aren't going to make the playoffs. I know Penny has showed flashes too. I don't mind keeping him involved, but I'd love to see more of Kenneth Walker. And finally, good for Geno Smith. He's looked good, looked better than I think most people expected him to look. I hope he continues and has a good year. I'm just super happy for the guy to finally get an opportunity to play in the NFL again. All right, so that was all 32 teams. I'm sure I went longer than 15 seconds on some, shorter than 15 seconds on others, but I tried to keep it short and sweet and didn't hit on everything that I could have hit on, obviously. But I just wanted to do quick takeaways after this short portion of the season and get a video up so that because I missed putting one up last week and I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this or if you have anything to say, why don't you comment down below if you have different takeaways or if you think my takeaways were misguided in some way. If you like the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to try to do more videos than I've been doing. I'm trying to be more consistent. I haven't always been, but working on it. And yeah, so this has been another Jet Up Johnny video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.